Hi, I'm Amelia and welcome to Sew Amelia, my vlog where I talk all about making a handmade wardrobe for me and my children. Welcome to this week's vlog, which is a week in my sewing life. So if you're new to my channel, these videos are ones in which I chat to you throughout the week about the projects that I'm working on and a little bit of my daily life as well, so you can just see how I fit sewing into my week as a mum of 3 children. Spoiler alert, it does happen in very small bits of time here and there, and this week it's going to be even smaller little portions of time because my children are at home with me and we are on half term. Now this morning we just went on a little walk. My youngest unfortunately is a little bit poorly today, so we've stayed quite close to home, but this afternoon we're going to make some cookies, play some board games and have some fun indoors. Now I've snuck up today whilst the youngest one is napping and the older 2 are just having a quiet time, and I thought I would just share my plans for this week and what I hope to get up to tonight once the children are in bed. Now if you watched my February sewing plans last week, you'll know that I'm planning to make a coat. Now I did recently make the Hervea coat and that's going to be a great spring addition to my wardrobe, but I am quite low on the coats front in terms of what I have in my wardrobe, and I would quite like another coat in a different colour to go with the other items in my wardrobe. So the pattern that I've chosen is the Nova Coat by Papercut Patterns. It's this beautiful cocoon shaped coat, and I think that will work really well for the spring in the fabric that I have chosen, which is a light wool from C&H Fabrics. So it's quite a thin wool, you can see, so it's going to be warm but not too warm, which is what I want really in just a spring coat, but it is wool so it will give me some warmth. Now unfortunately this isn't in stock anymore, I don't think, as it was a clearance sale that I found this wool in, and I actually wasn't sure if I would get all of the pieces for the Nova coat out of this fabric, but thankfully last night I cut out the pattern pieces and I did have enough, so that's really good, and I have now cut out all of the pattern pieces with this as the main fabric. Now in my stash I have this Liberty fabric with these beautiful blues and purples and browns that I think will go really well with this brown coating fabric. And so I'm going to use this to line the coat. So it should be a lovely vibrant lining but not adding too much warmth to this spring jacket. Now briefly, the other reason I'm making this coat is that I really want to make this as my winter coat later on in a beautiful thick wool, perhaps adding a nice layer of wadding in the middle to make it really snuggly and warm for the winter. But before I do that in my beautiful costly wool fabric, I want to do a toile first just to check the sizing, as I have heard that this pattern can come up a little oversized. However, I don't really like making toiles if they're not wearable, especially with my limited amount of time for sewing. So this should hopefully be a very wearable toile. I have talked to a few sewists about sizing and what they would suggest, and given what they have suggested, I'm going to make a size 3. Now for more details on the pattern and on the sizes and things that comes in, do pop over and watch my February plans video where I talk about that in more detail. But it is a lovely size inclusive pattern and I'm really looking forward to making a start on that this week. So I need to pop downstairs and put these cookies in the oven with my boys, and hopefully we'll have a nice afternoon getting those iced and eaten, and hopefully tonight I will come up and let you know what progress I am making on that coat. I haven't even looked at the first step yet, so that will be what I start off with tonight, is reading through those instructions with a nice cup of tea and then hopefully getting cracking on that coat. It's Tuesday and I'm up in the sewing room. The children are having a little bit of a quiet time, so I've snuck up here to fill you in on what happened yesterday. Now, my little one has been a bit ill, so I've not been having quite the same amount of sleep as usual, which is possibly why I made a really silly mistake with my Nova coat. So I'll let you know what happened. When I bought this fabric here, I bought it when I was in Canterbury, and I didn't have a plan in mind for it, which is always, in my experience, an error when buying fabric. So I didn't have quite as much as the pattern requirements stated in the pattern, but I thought I almost had enough to squeeze the pattern pieces out. And then as I was placing them all on the fabric yesterday to cut them out, I was so pleased I had enough fabric. I got all the pieces out and I even had a little bit left over, not very much, but a little bit. So So I was patting myself on the back on a job well done. And then, as I was starting to read the pattern instructions, it suddenly dawned on me that I hadn't cut out an entire piece of the pattern. Quite an important piece, it would turn out. I had in fact missed cutting out this top front piece. So piece number 1, actually. I don't know how I missed tracing that out and cutting it out. I did check all my pattern pieces before I put them on the pattern and things, but obviously not carefully enough, as I missed piece number 1. I was considering whether I just started the work and sewing from Tuesday and forget about this, but I actually think it's really important to be honest. Not every make is going to go really well and be a success. We do make mistakes, and I think it's important to show that we all make mistakes and how we make our way out of them. So I do have a plan. When I looked at the line drawings, I actually thought this pattern might be quite well suited to colour blocking. Like I mentioned, I got this in a clearance sale, and C&H Fabrics, as far as I know, is not actually selling dressmaking fabric anymore. There's no chance of getting any more of that, and I don't like my chances of matching that sort of camel colour, especially when I have to shop online. But I did think a navy wool might go really well with this fabric. So I have gone online and found a nice wool fabric that's not too expensive, because this is just meant to be a spring coat and a bit of a toile for my nice winter version. So I've just ordered about 1 metre of that. It's a very wide fabric, so I think that will be enough, because I just need to get out this front piece here, and then I'm going to cut these pieces here on the corner of the back out of the navy blue as well, and then this will be a camel colour. The bottom pieces here will be camel colour, and these sleeves will be camel colour too. Now, because it's a dropped sleeve, I'll make sure that these 2 front pieces here are navy blue, and then the piece going over the top of the sleeve here will be navy blue, and then it will look like the top is navy and the bottom hopefully is the camel colour. So I'm hoping that that will solve the problem, and I will indeed end up with a wearable coat. I got all of my lining pieces cut out of the lining, again managed to squeeze those out, which was really good. I haven't missed off any of the lining pieces, so that's a win. I can't believe I made that mistake, but like I said, these things happen. Hopefully that fabric will arrive this week and I can make a start on that. But if it doesn't, you'll just have to come back for my February makes video, when I will hopefully have a finished Nova coat. So what next? I've decided to cut out and get started on the Steele Pinafore by Elbe Textiles. Now, I mentioned this again in my February plans video, so if you want any details about sizing and the design features of this pattern, do pop over and watch that video. But I'm going to make the pinafore in this beautiful navy enzyme washed linen, and I have cut out the pieces now. So I cut those out last night. I managed to get all the pieces cut out without a problem. I always knew I didn't have quite enough fabric for all of the facing and lining pieces, as well as the main pieces in this fabric. This was one I picked up in a remnants sale from Sew Me Sunshine, and that was fine. I was always prepared for that, and I knew that I had some of this delicious Pigeon Wishes cotton poplin left over. I've actually used this before to line my Camden skirt. I absolutely love it, and I somehow managed to get much more than I needed for the initial project that I used this for. That's great. It has served me well as lining fabrics for a couple of projects now. And so the lining for the bodice pieces, for the back bodice piece, and I think for the pocket facing, I've got out of this fabric, and then the rest of it I've cut from the linen. So that should work well. I'm hoping for smooth sailing with this project now, and I am going to try and get a couple of preparation bits done this afternoon. So far I've rethreaded my overlocker with navy thread. I have wound up a new bobbin with navy thread. I've changed the needle on my machine. I've given my overlocker a bit of a clean. Yes, so I've done all of that prep work, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to iron the interfacing onto the pattern pieces that need that, do some stay stitching, and just generally get all the bits and pieces prepared. And then hopefully tonight after bedtime, hopefully I can come up here for a couple of hours of sewing and me time, and avoid any further calamities this month. It's been one of those months actually where I have not had smooth sailing with my sewing projects. I think it happens to us all. Like I say, we've had a few bouts of illness and things in the family, and that always affects everybody sleep-wise, and just generally having enough time to make sure the children are okay first and foremost, obviously, which means a little bit less time for sewing, which is fine. But tonight, I'm hoping my little one is now on the mend finally, so I can get a couple of hours up here tonight to get that Steele Pinafore started. Wednesday, I'm up in the sewing room. We've had a lovely day today. As you'll see this morning, we went out to the park and had a lovely walk in it almost felt spring-like sunshine. But then just as we got home, the heavens opened and it rained all afternoon, so we timed that one quite well, and we had a lovely just chilled afternoon. So not a lot of sewing today, but I am up in the sewing room tonight now. All the children are in bed, and I'll show you where I've got to on the Steele Pinafore. I've just realised I'm wearing navy and the Pinafore is navy, so hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So I have finished working on the bodice here, so it's all interfaced on this side. Now I've also added, hopefully you can see the button loops there, and what I've done with that is I have also put the pocket pieces onto the skirt front here, so you can just about see the pocket pieces there. Now when the bodice is joined to the skirt here, so you can see the bodice going up there, there is an opening here on the side of the skirt. There is a facing to go in there, but that's open. Now obviously where that falls and sits on your hip can then be exposed, and it's slightly too low really for t-shirts to cover that. So I read somewhere that what I can do is I've extended this back facing piece, so it should finish here, and I've extended it by about 1 inch. So then when I add the facing to that, I'll put the buttonholes over here as they were intended to be. So if the piece had finished here, the buttonholes would be there. So I'm still going to put the buttonholes there, but then I'll attach the facing below this piece. So instead of the facing folding back and meeting the edge of the skirt here, what will happen is the edge of the skirt will actually go right across that facing. So instead of meeting the back bodice here, it will go right across the back bodice, and the buttons will then affix here. So that will be turned out like that. So they'll affix to it here, which would just give me that extra inch just behind that skirt piece for a bit of extra coverage. So I hope that makes sense. I think that will work. What I've also done is I've added 2 extra button loops on the skirt piece. So again, I can then put buttons all the way down, which will just give me a little bit of extra security and coverage, I think, because I'd like those 2 pieces to close, especially because I will wear this in the summer as well as in the autumn. And t-shirts, like I said, I don't think they'll cover quite that far. So I'm hoping with that little bit of extra facing behind that skirt piece, those 2 pieces again, they won't meet, but they will go across the top of each other, which will provide that extra sort of coverage that I'm after. I hope that makes sense. So tonight's job is I've put in the gathering threads on the front and the back skirt pieces, and I'm going to attach those to their bodice piece, or the front and back bodice, and then attach the lining, I think, is the next step. So not too many steps to go actually. I mean, obviously I've got to hem it and do all the buttonholes and the buttons and everything else, so there's still plenty to do, but in terms of the big construction tasks, not too many left to go. So I'm going to see if in the next hour or so before bedtime I can attach the skirts to the bodice, and we'll see how far we get. Hi, it's Thursday night, and I thought I would fill you in with where I got to last night. I didn't actually achieve very much. I had a whole evening to get a few things done, and I got very little done, but that's because it was kind of a logistical sewing night. That is, I had to work out how I was going to do the facing to go under the side opening. I think this is going to work, but it did take me all evening to work it out. So I have gathered the back and the front skirt pieces, as you'll see, so that they're all ready and they fit into the opening of the bodice, so I know that's ready to go. And then I've just attached these sort of fly facing pieces to the side, and I've done that within the 1 centimetre seam allowance because I then have to join the side seams up here with the other skirt piece on the other side, so that will hopefully still be flipped underneath. I'm not sure I'm explaining that correctly. Hopefully tomorrow I will have a finished garment and I can show it to you in the flesh, as it were. So that's what I did last night, is sort out the fly facings, and I also made a decision about what I'm going to do with the bodice. So the front bodice looks like this, and I've sewn the straps on and done the darts, and then the back side of the bodice looks like this, and it's supposed to have 2 buttonholes here, and there's a lovely tie feature at the back here. Now, if I'm honest, I love the look of the tie feature, but I'm not sure how practical that will actually be on a day-to-day basis for myself. And also, I'm not sure about the logistics, again, of tying a bow behind my back when I get dressed. Now, I'm sure I can tie the bow and then leave it tied, and then just slip the dress on and off with the buttons. But I'm just not sure. So what I've been playing around with and thinking about today is whether or not I simply attach the straps at the back. So what I've done is tried it on. Here's the front and here is the back. And I've just attached those straps to the back bodice piece. And I think when I put the lining on it, then that will just be attached to the back bodice piece, which I think will work better for me. So I can just slip the pinafore over my head and do up the buttons down the side opening. So that's where I got to last night, just a lot of reading through the instructions to try and understand how the facing does go on to the bodice. Because it's fully lined bodice, I had to work out just how the facing does attach in the pattern itself, and then how I wanted to amend that while still being able to construct the pattern as it's designed. So one of those evenings with lots of reading instructions, messing about with the pattern, basting things in place, seeing if I think it will work. Hopefully I have a workable solution, but I shall let you know after I do some more sewing tonight. So tonight I'm going to sew the facing onto the front bodice piece. I'm going to decide whether or not I'm going to attach these straps or not to the other side of the bodice, and just double check that I've got the measurements of that right for myself. And then I will probably start attaching the lining to the bodice pieces and hopefully get to the point where I can attach the bodice pieces to the skirt. But that's quite a lot of sewing, and I thought I was going to get a lot done last night and I didn't, so let's just see. I think the days have been so lovely with the children at home, but also extremely full on, and I've been pretty tired, especially with my little one still not 100% and waking in the night. So it'll probably be an early night for me here if I can, but hopefully I will get some sewing done so that I can share a finished-ish or finished garment with you tomorrow. It's Friday morning and I thought I would pop on briefly just to let you know that I have finished the pinafore now, so I'm wearing it today, and I thought I'd just give a brief review about how I found the pattern and also share some fabric that arrived yesterday afternoon. So yes, this is the end of my weekend sewing. I have finished the Steele pinafore. Jury's out. I like some things about it, other things I'm not 100% sure about. So I'll see if I can show you the bodice, and then I'll try and insert some photos as well if I get some taken today. I really love the style lines on the bodice here that come down the front. You probably can't see them very clearly, and I love the cutaway here. So, and down the side I've popped in those extra buttons. I'll stand up so you can see. So I've popped in some extra buttons here along the opening. And again, I'll pop in a photo if it's clearer, which closes that over, so I'm really pleased with. And those are buttons that I had from Ethel and Joan, beautiful little gold buttons. Now the thing I'm not so sure about is the front of the dress. I made view B, which is the gathered front and back, and actually I think in the future if I were to make it again, I would make view A, which is the straight front. I wasn't sure that would suit me actually, because normally gathered skirts are what I go for. It's my preference because it suits me with my fuller hips. But in this case, actually, I think it puts a little bit too much fullness across the front, and I think it might be more flattering if I did not have the gathers there. So I'll see if I can show you, although I appreciate with the navy it's quite tricky to see. So the front here is gathered. If I stand on the side you can see that it just poofs out a little bit at the front. Now maybe if I give it a good press that might change, but also if I take it in a bit at the sides, perhaps you lose some of that bulk. So I think there are two options. I did size down to a size C because some of the reviews did say it comes up a little oversized. I mean, it is an oversized pinafore and it will be brilliant for these last few weeks of really cold weather. I can put snuggly jumpers underneath, and because it's linen and it is floaty, I think it will also be wonderful in the summer because there's a lot of movement in the dress. So I think I will get a lot of wear out of this dress. I do really like it, and if I can face undoing it all and taking some of these gathers out, I might do that, but I think I'm going to really enjoy wearing this as it is. It's just the style of the dress which is a little different to what I'm used to. I think if I were to make it again, I would try the flat fronted skirt, and I might also possibly go down a size for the bodice just because it has turned out a little bit bigger than what I think I prefer. I like a more fitted bodice and then more of a flow over the hips. So that's my feedback so far, but I'm going to wear it and see what I think of it. It certainly is very light and floaty and comfortable. I love the enzyme wash linen. This is from So Me Sunshine. I think they've got some left. I'll list it below in the description box if they have. And I love the colour. I just think navy really suits me. I think it is such a practical colour to wear, and also it will go with a lot of blouses and tops and t-shirts and things in my wardrobe. This one is just a ready to wear turtleneck that I've had for many years, and I think it goes well with the navy. And so yes, I am enjoying it. There are some things I would change for next time, but that's the joy of sewing. We get to make things and enjoy the process, which I really did with this one. It was a fun one to sew up, and also with all the amendments that I did end up making, which I'll share more of in my February makes video. It was lots of fun to just sort of get my head around how I wanted to change the pattern to suit my particular needs. So now, what arrived yesterday was that blue wool, so I can finally get started next week on my coat. I did order this navy wool, again, not an easy colour to see, and I ordered that earlier on in the week when I realised I didn't have enough for the pattern, and I think actually it will go really well with the brown wool and with that lining. I think those three colours will work really well together. So it's a happy accident. I always like to think these things aren't mistakes, they're learning curves, learning experiences, happy accidents, however you want to frame it. So those three fabrics are going to become the paper cut patterns of Nova Coat. So I've cut out all of the pieces, well, I've now cut out all the pieces that I need from this fabric, and the one that I missed out, I'm going to use this navy wool, and then I'll cut an extra piece of this to come around the front so it does look more like a plan rather than an accident, and hopefully it will look like a nice colour blocked coat. That's the hope. So yes, so I will get started on that. That's my next plan. So do come back for my February makes video when I hope to share a finished coat. So thanks so much for watching this week. It's been a bit of a funny one with plans being made and changed along the way. So thank you for joining me as I did that this week. Let me know what you think of the Pinafore, whether you think it would be better with the flat skirt front or whether you like it with a skirt at the front. It's always good to hear your opinions in the comments below. So I hope you stay safe from the storm this weekend if you're in England. I hope you have a happy week ahead full of lovely sewing, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!